We are also continuing our discussions with the provinces and territories on the safe reopening of the economy. I have also spoken to President Trump this morning, and we talked about the new NAFTA, we talked about tariffs on aluminum, and we talked about systemic racism, and of course we also talked about China and the 2 Canadians arbitrarily detained there.
You've seen me come out to talk with Canadians about what we're doing to help you and your family, your employer, your local businesses deal with this pandemic. We're going to continue to do that vital work. This week, we'll be announcing an extension to the wage subsidy program until December to give greater certainty and support to businesses as we restart the economy. We've also been working very hard, the Deputy Prime Minister Freeland and I, on the Safe Restart program with the provinces, and we will have an update on that later this week. This morning, I spoke with President Trump about the new NAFTA, about aluminum tariffs, about Black Lives Matter, and also about the issue of China and the 2 detained Canadians. This morning, I know people want to hear more about the Canada Student Service Grant Program in particular. I know there are many questions and problems with the way this program is run about, and I know people have concerns about it. I get that. I made a mistake in not recusing myself immediately from the discussions, given our family's history. And I'm sincerely sorry about not having done that. I got into politics to help people shape their country for the better. I've been youth critic and youth minister for our government, and every step of the way I've tried to create opportunities for young people to serve. During this unprecedented pandemic, we got very creative with a range of programs designed to help Canadians, to help families, to help businesses, and yes, to help young people. We worked with a range of partners across the country, organizations from United Way to the Red Cross to food banks, and we made sure that we got help to Canadians. But when it came to this organization and this program, the involvement that I'd had in the past and that my family has should have had me remove myself from those discussions, and I'm sorry that I didn't. I'm particularly sorry because not only has it created unnecessary controversy and issues, it also means that young people who are facing a difficult time right now, getting summer jobs, contributing to their communities, are going to have to wait a little longer before getting those opportunities to serve. And that's frustrating. We
introduced a program to help students get involved in their communities, but because of my participation in the organization, I should have recused myself from the discussions, which I did not. All we wanted to do was help young people. Throughout my career in politics, I've tried to create opportunities for young people. I was very, very interested in what this program could deliver for them, but because of my family connections to the organization, I should not have been part of the discussion. That was a mistake on my part, and I want to express my apologies for that. But this is very frustrating because there are young people who could now be serving their communities through this program, and they will have to wait a little longer because of a mistake that I made. In this pandemic, we have tried to do new things, to be creative, and certainly we were bound to make mistakes, and we adjusted a number of times as the situation evolved. But in this case, it's my fault. I should not have been involved in these discussions, and I want to express my deep apologies for that. We will continue to try and help Canadians right across the country through various programs, including helping young people. The WE organization has paid back the money that was provided to it and will be providing some placements, and we will be finding another organization to introduce these placements. Now, things did not roll out as we wanted it to, and I'm really disappointed in myself as a result.
We will continue to work very hard to deliver programs and services to Canadians who need support right across the country, including to young people who want nothing more than to be able to help out Because of a mistake I made in not withdrawing from these conversations when the Public Service recommended we move forward with the WE organization, it has gotten a little slower for young people who are facing a difficult time right now to be able to get involved in their communities and make a difference. But I know young people across this country will continue to step up and serve in their communities, and we as a government will continue to work forward on delivering good programs for Canadians. From the beginning, we knew we had to move in unprecedented creative ways, work with a range of partners, and we have. In this situation, the mistake that we made was on me, and I take responsibility for it. We will continue to work very, very hard to deliver the programs that young people, indeed all Canadians, need to get through this historic pandemic. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Je suis maintenant content de prendre
I'm
vos
now
questions.
happy to take
Merci
your
beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier
questions.
ministre. On va commencer la conférence de presse aujourd'hui par le téléphone. Opérateur, c'est à vous.
Thank you. Merci. First question, Kate Bolongaro, Bloomberg. Line open.
Hello, Prime Minister. I have a question regarding the WE charity. You're facing your third ethics investigation in several years, and given the life expectancy of a minority government in Canada, do you think voters will forgive you whenever Canadians go back to the polls?
I think it's really important that governments do the best they can to serve Canadians, and in this situation, I should have recused myself. I think Canadians will make their judgments about what we were trying to do and what I should have done instead of staying involved in these conversations. But at the same time, we're going to keep focusing on delivering for Canadians so we can get through this pandemic and come back with a stronger economy, while at the same time we make sure that vulnerable Canadians and young people have greater opportunities than they had before.
Following up, Kate.
You spoke with President Trump today, and I'm wondering if you could give us more details regarding whether there will be tariffs on Canadian aluminum in the coming next few weeks.
I highlighted to the President that the pandemic has disrupted usual manufacturing processes and supply chains, and that has caused for certain disruption in the aluminum sector that is starting to realign itself given the economies are starting up again and manufacturing is getting going. I impressed upon him that it would be a shame to see tariffs come in between our two countries at a time where we're celebrating NAFTA and at a time where we want our businesses and our manufacturers to get going as quickly as possible, and we pledge to keep working on it together. Okay. I
pointed out to the President that it's extremely important to reopen our two economies, and the fact that there has been this disruption as a result of COVID-19 has led to issues in our aluminum industry in North America, but things are now realigning with the reopening of our economies across the continent. And I said I hope we will not see any tariffs imposed that would only slow down the economic recovery that is very important for both our countries.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Raymond Filion, TVA. À vous.
Merci. Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre.
Good morning, Prime
Au moment
Minister.
d'approuver le contrat d'organisme,
Now,
oui, est-ce que vous étiez
when you
au courant que
approved
votre
the
mère et votre frère avaient été
contract to
rémunérés
we,
des dizaines de
were
milliers
you
de dollars
aware
par
that tens of thousands of dollars had been paid to your mother and your brother? I knew that members of my family had worked with that organization. They had been involved in it, but I did not have any details on what they'd been paid, and I should have had those details, and I regret that.
I was very aware that members of my family have worked with and contributed to the WE organization, but I was unaware of the details of their remuneration, and I should have, and I regret that.
En suivi, Raymond.
Est-ce que quelqu'un au sein de l'appareil
Now,
gouvernemental,
can you say that there was someone in cabinet or in your organization that raised concerns about giving the contract to we? Well, there was some reflection carried out by myself and others in terms of the fact that the connections with the family meant that we had to be careful and made sure we did things right. But it was actually the public service that made that independent recommendation, and that reassured us. But as we see now, I should have gone further. I should have completely withdrawn from that discussion to allow students right across the country to benefit from those opportunities that now will come later.
Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. Next question, David Youngren, Reuters. Line open.
Yeah, good morning, Prime Minister. You spoke to President Trump. Can you let us know what your latest thinking is on when the border might be opened?
We recognize that the situation continues to be complex in the United States in regards to COVID-19. Every month we have been able to extend the border closures to all but essential goods and services, and those discussions are ongoing with the United States right now as we are a week from the next deadline for closures. We're going to continue to work hard to keep Canadians safe and to keep our economies flowing. We will have more to say later this week, I'm sure. Okay.
We recognize that it's important to ensure the protection of Canadians, while at the same time allowing them to travel and allowing essential goods and services to cross the borders. We're a week away from the end of the current ban on traveling, and we will have announcements to make in the coming days with respect to the border.
And secondly, given the complete calamity down south, how much are you possibly thinking about extending the closures, let's say, to the end of the year, as opposed to this continual month-over-month movement?
We've pledged to continue to monitor closely the situation that is constantly evolving. We will be discussing with our American partners what the next steps should be, and I think this is a situation that is evolving rapidly, and therefore we need to keep responding to the situation on the ground. We will continue to respond to the situation as it now exists. I think making long-term predictions is probably not the best idea, but we will do everything we have to do over the short and medium term to ensure that Canadians are safe.
Last question on the phone.
Thank you. Merci. Mélanie Marquis, La Presse. À vous.
Merci, bonjour, Monsieur
Good
Trudeau.
morning,
Just
Mr. Trudeau. Just to clarify, you said that you were not aware of the details of what your family members had been paid. So does that mean you didn't know whether they'd been paid, or you did know that they'd been paid, but not how much? Well, for a number of years now, members of my family, particularly my mother, have worked as speakers at various events and do that for various organizations where they talk about such issues as mental health. And I knew that she had a source of income from various organizations, but I didn't know exactly what she was paid by one or another organization. And I deeply regret that my mother has been involved in this situation because I made the mistake of not recusing myself from the discussion right from the beginning because of my family connections.
I have known, obviously, for many years that my mom has been an extraordinary advocate for mental health issues, a professional public speaker who works with a range of different organizations. Obviously, I knew she worked with WE. I didn't know the details of how much she was getting paid by various organizations, but I should have, and I deeply regret that. What I also deeply regret is the fact that I have brought my mother into this situation in a way that is really unfair to her. I should have been thoughtful enough to recuse myself completely from any discussions around WE because of these connections from the very beginning, and I did not, and I'm very sorry about that.
Merci. En suivi, Mélanie?
Follow-up?
Oui, c'est pas encore tout à fait clair pour moi.
Well, it's not
Vous saviez
totally
ou pas
clear for
si
me
We
yet.
Charity en particulier avait
You
rémunéré
said
votre
that
mère,
We Charity
votre
did
épouse,
pay
mais je
your
vais quand
mother
même
for
passer à la
speaking
question
engagements,
suivie.
but Mr. Blanchet, François Blanchet, asked you last week to step down and allow Ms. Freeland to take over because he believes that one ethics inquiry once, a second one maybe, but now we're at your third ethics inquiry. What do you say to Mr. Blanchet? I believe the opposition parties have their job to do, and they will continue to do their job. But I also have a job, and my job is to deliver programs to Canadians and work with my cabinet, including the Deputy Prime Minister, and ensure that Canada can get through this pandemic and get the economy back on track as quickly as possible. And that's what I'll continue to do.
Okay. Obviously, the opposition parties have their job to do, and they will keep doing it. I have my job to do as well, which is to make sure that Canadians are well supported through this pandemic, and we have an economic restart that goes smoothly. I will continue to work with an outstanding group of ministers, including the Deputy Prime Minister. We will make sure we stay focused on delivering for Canadians.
Hi, Prime Minister. Crystal Logue with Global News. You just said that you weren't aware of the specific details of your family's involvement with WE, but did you know that your mother and brother were paid by them, period?
I knew that my brother and my mother work as professional public speakers, and it is not surprising to me that they got paid by WE. But I did not know the details, and as I said, I should have known the details, and I regret that. Okay.
As I said, my brother and my mother have worked as professional public speakers, and I know that they worked with various organizations, including the WE charity. However, I did not know exactly what they'd been paid by those organizations, and I should have known, and I regret that.
I just want to clarify what you're actually saying. Is it correct that you're saying that you knew they were being paid, but not how much? Is that the distinction you're making?
I knew that they were working as professional public speakers and worked for a range of organizations, including WE. It is not a surprise to me that they got paid by WE, but I didn't know how much they got paid by WE. But I should have, and I regret that. Okay.
I knew that my brother and my father were working as professional public speakers, but I did not know how much they had been paid by the WE charity, and I regret that. I should have known.
Will you be accepting the Conservatives' invitation that you testify at Finance Committee?
We have a number of ministers and officials testifying this week to answer questions at committee, and I will look at any invitations that come in and discuss them with my House leadership team. Okay. Je sais que la ministre de la Jeunesse
and other individuals will be there to testify at the committee this week, and we will be looking at the invitations and make the decisions accordingly.
CBC News. People are wondering also about the size of the grant to WE, $900 million. You have 35,000 applications, and it doesn't seem, even if those people take the maximum amount available, that you would come anywhere near to $900 million. So can you explain that number and how many people you were expecting to assist through this program?
First of all, the amount in the contract to WE was about $20 million for delivery of tens of thousands of youth placements across the country. They are the ones that have the network that was able to do that quickly. That was the recommendation by the Professional Public Service. As to the larger contract, which includes direct payments to young people for contributions for volunteering across this country, we're going to work with other organizations, perhaps even with Service Canada, as a way of delivering those grants for summer volunteerism. But that is obviously something that we're going to continue to work out with the public service now. Okay.
With respect to the contract with WE, there was $20 million to administer the program that was provided to them that they have repaid, and they will still be delivering many placements free of charge for the government. With respect to the direct payments to students for their volunteerism, that money will now have to go through other means, perhaps directly through Service Canada, which will be more complicated, but right now we're trying to ensure that young people will be able to serve and help out in their communities, and that has always been a priority for myself, and we will continue to do that. Radio-Canada, Mr. Trudeau, you were blamed twice by the Ethics Commissioner for conflict of interest. Are you familiar with the Conflict of Interest Act? Well, I realize that this is a situation where I should have recused myself right off the bat because of the involvement of my family. I did not do that. This is an issue, and this is an area where I've been working throughout my political career. getting involved with young people, helping young people, getting them opportunities. I did all of that with Kati Mavik before I went into politics. This is something that has always been very important to me, and I did not remove myself from the discussions for that reason, but I should have, and I regret that.
I've been involved in youth organizations, youth volunteering, youth service since well before I was in politics and throughout my time in politics. It is something I believe deeply in, and should even given all that, I should not have stayed involved in the conversations because of the organization involved, because of the links to we that are there with my family and myself in the past. I regret this because something that I care deeply about, getting young people opportunities to serve, has become more difficult because of a mistake I made. We're going to work very, very hard to ensure that these young people continue to get opportunities to serve.
Évidemment, on ne lâchera pas le morceau. On va continuer à en parler.
We will continue to talk about that. Now, is there anything else that we should know now with respect to this issue before you have to apologize a second time? Well, I'm being very clear with you. I should not have been involved in those discussions when the public service came forward with the recommendation to deal with this charity. Because of my family connections to the organization, I should have withdrawn from those discussions. I did not, and I regret that. It was a mistake that I made, and I will take the consequences.
Hi, Prime Minister. Molly Thomas, CTV National News. You are making a massive U-turn today by saying sorry, after a week of defending your decision on we. How can you convince Canadians that this is a genuine apology and not just saying sorry because you got your hand stuck in the cookie jar?
I am sorry because young people who should be out there volunteering, contributing to their communities through this program will now have to wait a little longer. I've worked very hard through this pandemic, but also through my career to create opportunities for young people. And we've put forward many programs for young people, whether it's the increase in the Canada Summer Jobs, whether it's creation of new jobs in pandemic-related areas, whether it's investments in youth through the Canada Emergency Student Response Benefit. We are there to help young people, and it is really frustrating for me that because I made a mistake on this and I didn't step back from this decision when it came forward from the public service, young people are going to have to wait a little longer to be able to serve their country. I am frustrated by that. I deeply regret it, and I take responsibility for it. Okay. I
think that what frustrates me the most about this is that young people should have and could have had opportunities to serve their communities now right across the country through this program, and they won't be able to do that quite so quickly because I made the mistake of not withdrawing from the discussion right from the beginning because of my family connections. So it's frustrating for me, but we will continue to try and help those young people as we helped with the student response benefit and more summer jobs, and with various programs and the creation of jobs in sectors that need help throughout the pandemic. So we will continue to be there for young people, but this is a mistake that has made things more difficult, and I take responsibility for it and apologize.
This is the third time you've had a conflict of interest as Prime Minister. How many will it take for you to actually learn the lesson?
I think we're going to continue to work very, very hard to deliver programs for Canadians. From the very beginning, the intention on this program was to get young people serving their country in a different way, in a creative way, in a way that we had to move quickly on because of the pandemic. We always knew from the beginning that there were going to need to be adjustments and tweaks to various programs, and we demonstrated throughout the past months that we have adjusted and tweaked and fixed errors, and you put programs aside that weren't quite working and improved other programs that were working well. These are the things that Canadians expect us to do. But on this one, this was my mistake. This was me not stepping back from an organization that I should have known to not get involved with, even as Prime Minister, and allow the public service and the non-connected ministers to move forward on delivering this program. The fact that I didn't made it more difficult for young people at a time where things are difficult enough already, and that is something I deeply regret.
Merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui m'a fait la conférence de presse d'aujourd'hui.
Merci tout le monde.
All right, that is